Now, our very first story, 35 students of the Kumasi Technical Institute who were arrested following a clash with the police on Tuesday have been granted bail. The police, however, say they will be required to assist the police with investigations into the matter. News broke on Joy News Prime on Tuesday when the police stormed the campus in pursuit of some students they say pelted them with stones earlier on. This was after the police had tried to restore order on some of the streets in Kumasi, where the students who were jubilating over their performance in an inter-school sports competition blocked some roads, impeding vehicular movement. The students' account point to severe beatings by the police amid firing of tear gas and live ammunition.
Please,
now, these 14 students who sustained injuries have been hospitalized. Some of the students who witnessed the confrontation gave the following accounts.
It's daybreak here at the Kumasi Technical Institute after students clashed with police yesterday, and this morning students are showing me how they escaped beating by armed policemen inside the dormitories. As you look in here, this is the place where students actually had to take away the louver blades, break open and use this entrance to go out. Some of them had to climb up and jump. Those who were upstairs had to jump from the two-story or three-story building. I have a student here. Let me find out from him. What happened yesterday?
Yesterday, let's take it. I was I'm not Tom free. If I auto mobile, I'm the good guy saying you get inside the dome. By the time I buy, you say you're money. By letting a very rare dome, almost 30 free. So I top on. You was about to down. Like people a foot top on almost 6 down. Mujan until the year Shasha, no more Buama, Fiti, Dom Nina, Mani Bedri, and a dome. Tomorrow, it will know, a bobo getting a CMB and a CMB. So, till now later on a senior B, or then a night, a bobo glass in Munina, or then a nine. A bobo cantana, a pea, a buoy, till buoy in your advantage yet. A joining in your chef foodness, and see a chef foodness be 2 hours. The chef foodness be 2 hours and Sunday. It may escape a crab dining. Your buyers, your dining, or my residing in.
Well, and what he's saying is that they were asked by the police to enter their dormitories. They thought it was okay to go into the dormitories, but then when they entered the dormitories, they saw their fellow students escaping from the 3rd floor. And so they were being beaten inside the dormitories. And so they had to create this hole here and be able to escape onto the field and stay there for 2 hours. So lots of accounts here, and we've seen blood stains as well in some of the dormitories upstairs, indicating the manhandling of some of the students who are currently on admission at the NUM clinic.
The students had earlier on Wednesday demonstrated on the campus calling for their detained colleagues to be released. The school's principal, Dr. Abeku Apre, has been explaining how the police defied logic, according to him, and invaded their school.
Abibio Express. It was from there that the police began to attack them, to stop them from using the route or so, as I hear. And they came as far as to the children's park, where some of them were arrested. So they ran away and joined another group that was coming through the main road from Amakum traffic to the Zongo area, the railway line. And in their numbers, naturally they blocked the road. So I'm told that a police officer came to pass by and he asked them to disperse. But in that mood, naturally, to be difficult for instructions to be heard by all people and to be acceded to by all of them, and so they did not. So he called for reinforcement, and the moment you call for reinforcement, naturally it connotes a dangerous situation which must go and coil, and so they came, and the students, when they saw the police, the siren blowing, according to the police themselves, they rather went wild and were jubilating the more. So some of them, the police vehicle driving into them, attempted to throw stones, and some threw stones. And so it became a confrontation. So at the point the police started firing rubber bullets and tear gas and whatever. It happened at Waik Junction there. So they ran away to the school. And when children run away to their school, it tells you that I have stopped doing what I am doing. I have obeyed you as to what you say I should do. And so please, my hands are up. So they came to the school. And the unfortunate thing happened that the police rather decided not to stop at Wayik and go back after the student had obeyed their instruction, but they followed them to the school, firing tear gas and rubber bullets and even live bullets. And they went to the dormitory to beat those who didn't even know what was going on outside. I'm told they went to the dining hall to attend the food that was really available for boarding students. And so it was a terrible situation. A lot of them were arrested and some were wounded.
The Education Minister Matthew Poku-Prempeh, who visited the school Wednesday morning, condemned the incident and said it would be investigated. He however indicated he would first hear the police's side of the story.
An incident, very bad incident has occurred on the campus of KTI, and we just have to get to the bottom of it. The police have been inside KTI, inside students' dormitory, shot at them, shot at masters. We have to listen to the side of the police. I have seen live bullets. I've seen rubber bullets. So I don't know if there was a situation then in KTI that necessitated live bullets. So we'll find out. That's what I want to do.
Has any educational protocols been broken?
What do you mean by educational protocol?
I mean, in the conduct of the police in dealing with such a situation.
If you don't find out, can you talk? No, I can't talk before I find out. I'll listen to the side of the police and then we'll take it from there.
The news of the police brutalities on the KTI campus got several parents storming the school to check on their wards. Love FM's Erastus Asaradonko was there on the KTI campus last night as the police charged on the students, and he joins us on now with the very latest. Good evening to you, Erastus. Now, we know 35 of the students have been granted bail. Are there any more being held?
Well, no. The last batch of the students were granted bail this evening, so they are all out. But some of them sustained some degree of beating, and so they were hurt, placed in cells, despite pleas to get them for medical treatment failed. And so this afternoon, as they were granted bail, one of them was carried to the Annuem clinic. Currently, he cannot walk. Doctors say it looks like a fracture, but they will need x-rays to determine. And so that's the nature now. Let me give you the breakdown of students who are on admission currently. We have 45 students who reported to the hospital. 16 of them were admitted. We had 6 being discharged today, and then 1 has been brought in from the Zongo police cells who is nursing a suspected fracture. And so he has added to the lot to make 11 on admission as we speak.
Now, has normal academic work resumed on the KTI campus?
No, and it's not going to begin anytime soon. The final years we're going to write exams in the coming days. That's on Friday, but currently what is on the mind of authorities is not exams at the moment, but to calm nerves. Students who have been admitted, some of them were in the dormitory, some of them were already sick, if I should put it that way. One particular student had an accident, and so was recuperating and had to come to school to write the essay. He is currently on admission because he's sporting several injuries from the beating as well. So these are students who cannot, at the moment, be engaged in learning activities, and so authorities are considering delaying that for a moment. When you look at the campus itself, it is in no mood for academic activities at the moment. So I guess from next week going, we should be able to see people coming back and picking up their lives.
All right, now the police also indicate that a number of their men were injured. Have you seen any of these injured policemen?
Well, the public relations officer for the police, ASP Mohammed Tanko, made that statement on SMS today, and he was saying that he was inviting me to ascertain for myself. But as of today, I have not gotten any info from him concerning. He's showing me evidence of those injuries, and in fact, I spoke with him this evening, but there was no mention of showing me evidence of the people who were injured, and so I cannot speak to that, whether to confirm or deny.
But what are they saying about what appears to be the undue violence, excessive violence used on the students?
In fact, there has been no, let me say,
admission
on admission of guilt on their part. What they are saying is that the educational minister has come, Sofoku Prempe has in fact expressed some misgivings about how they handled the students, the fact that they fired live bullets and rubber bullets as well on campus today. He has made his reservations known to the police service. They have also instituted their own investigations. And in fact, when I went to the Annuem clinic this evening, I was told that in fact statements from all the 16 who were admitted have been taken by police commanders who came there today. And in fact, the education minister also came around to speak to them. And so they are saying they are conducting their own investigations, and at the right time when they have been able to establish excesses on the part of their men, they will be able to make a statement. But for now, they cannot make a statement on that one.
I'm clear now that the police were provoked by the actions of the students of KTI, who apparently have quite a history when it comes to such incidents. Does it appear the authorities intend to do anything about it at all to prevent a recurrence? In
fact, what the teachers are telling me, those who escorted the students to the Babayara Sports Stadium, are saying that, yes, indeed, they admit that the Kumasi Technical Institute students do have a bad when it comes to inter-colleges competitions and all that. But this time around, they can vouch for them that the provocation came from the police, because how the police crossed them at a point in time and demanded that they move in a certain direction with the large numbers they were walking around was totally unnecessary. They are saying that if they had allowed the students to walk in the manner they were walking, guided by the cadet corps and the teachers who were following them, they would have come back to campus safely. But the provocation, the use of tasers and belts and other things, provoked the students to react in the manner they did. And so this time around, they are vouching for their students. But indeed, when you listen to the principal speak yesterday, he still advised the students that KTI is getting a negative image about itself and the students in there. And so he's advising them that this should be a lesson to them, that they should put up a very good behavior going forward and during such competition.
All right, thank you very much, Rastus Asarodonko, bringing us up to speed with the incident at the Kumasi Technical Institute, where we're told that the 35 students who were arrested for involvement in the violence have been granted bail, but they will be assisting the police with investigations. You're watching Journey is Prime. We're taking a break. We'll be back with more. Please don't go away. You're watching Joy News Prime. Now, shortly we'll be taking you over to the presidency where President Akufo-Addo is having a meeting with members of the diplomatic corps. Right now we have the Dean of the diplomatic corps who's addressing the gathering. Once the president comes on, we will be bringing you his address as well. But right now, the lack of a standby ambulance at the Sekuma Hospital, where most of the victims of the January 31 school disaster were taken, has been cited as a reason for the high number of deaths from the accident. 6 children died and dozens were injured when the wall collapsed on kindergarten pupils at the Jamra Methodist School at Bremang, Sekuma in the central region. Medical workers at the Sekuma Hospital, however, tell Joy News a standby ambulance could have saved some lives. Justice Beidou has more.
The cry of a child still terrified by memories of his classroom block falling over him. He's one of the few children lucky to have escaped the January 31 disaster at the Breman Jamra Methodist School. Little Lucy Amwa, she too a victim of the accident, was supposed to have been taken to the hospital after it happened. But her mother, unable to fund her hospital bill, is now taking matters in her own hands.
Now Ubeko school beam. Ubeko school beam. Ubeko school beam.
This is your uncle school beam. Where is school? Now better than why you're nursing, Mommy.
Lucy is not alone. Many of the children in Breman Jamra now do not want to go back to school again. This is the hospital where most of the victims were brought.
This was the first point of call for many of the children who got injured when the disaster first struck. It is the biggest hospital in Sekuma, the district capital. Medical workers here tell me they were stretched to the fullest as the huge numbers trickled in. 1 week on, all the injured children have been safely discharged, leaving just one.
The school building collapse in this small town is one of Ghana's worst school disasters of all time. It has not just exposed the story of school infrastructure across the country that are currently in terrible conditions, but it has also shown just how unprepared this country's health system is for such unforeseen circumstances. Justice Beidou, Joy News, Breman Jamra.
President Akufo-Addo and the United Kingdom's Foreign Affairs Minister Boris Johnson have committed to deepening trade and improving the living conditions of their people. The UK's Foreign Minister was on a day's visit to Ghana to consolidate UK bilateral relations with Ghana and agree on special areas of cooperation. Addressing the media after a closed-door session, President Akufo-Addo says trade and initiatives that will improve the living standards of Ghanaians were discussed.
It has been a very good discussion. I've enjoyed it. And I think a lot of work is being done to make sure that the relations between us and Great Britain continue to be on an even keel, and that the areas for greater trade cooperation, business cooperation, both sides looking at that and seeing what can be done to improve. At the end of the day, we're both concerned about what we can do to improve the lives of our various peoples, and that is the main consideration. But let me also give the chance to the Foreign Secretary to say a few words.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Well, can I say what an absolute pleasure and honor it is to be welcomed here by you today and to be in Ghana for the first time in my life. It's been too long delayed, my arrival in Ghana. Of course, as you know, where I used to be mayor of London, and in our great city, we were the fortunate beneficiaries of many Ghanaians who contributed massively to our society and still do. In fact, we have several Ghanaian MPs in the UK, or MPs of Ghanaian extraction in the UK, as you may know. It's a huge pleasure to be able to congratulate you, Mr. President, personally on your triumph of, I think, 38 days ago, or roughly speaking, and to see your government getting smoothly underway and getting ready to meet all the challenges that I know the people of Ghana want you to meet. And I think we've had some great discussions about our historic relationship. I said that it went back 60 years. You pointed out that it went back rather longer than that.
Absolutely.
I think you were historically accurate on that point. But we hope to have an even deeper friendship going forward. And particularly, we want to make sure that British firms come here in ever greater numbers and greater strength to invest in Ghana and, if I may say so, take advantage of the fantastic opportunities there are in this wonderful country. So it's been great to spend some time with you, Mr. President, to discuss matters of common interest, including lots of foreign policy and security questions where clearly we share a joint interest in ensuring the stability of the region, which affects us in Europe as much as anybody else.
In other news, Chairman of Parliament's Appointments Committee, Joe Osei-Owusu, has disclosed Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak has personally apologized to him over allegations of bribery smeared at him by some members of the minority. NDC MP for Boku Central, Mama Yariga, and had alleged Energy Minister Boakye Jaku bribed members of the committee with 3,000 cedis each through the first Deputy Speaker. A 5-member committee set up by the Speaker to investigate the issue started work on Wednesday, with Mr. Osei-Owusu appearing as its first witness.
The evening that the information came to us, I did not confront Honorable Muntaka. However, the following morning, when Joy FM called me and I spoke to the matter, they called Honorable Muntaka, who also spoke. At that time, he said he was on his way to Koforidua. So at lunchtime, he came to me and said, sorry, I think you don't deserve this, but I don't know what I should say, what other he said. But at that point, he came to plead with me. He apologized that I've been brought into the center of this to me.
Mr. Osei-Owusu disclosed to the committee he has not confronted Mr. Yariga over the allegations since the story came up because the trust between them is broken.
Joe Osei-Owusu, Honorable Ayariga is your colleague in the House. Did you, at any time, engage him one-on-one to find out from him why he went on air, speaking or alleging, making this allegation against you?
No, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't trust him to do any such thing.
Apart from raising the issue at the conclave meeting, since you didn't trust Honorable Ayariga, did you raise it with his leadership?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, at the conclave meeting, I put it on the floor where the leadership were, that matter should be resolved there before we return to the chamber.
What do you mean by you didn't trust him? I mean, what do you mean by it?
He said whether I spoke to him, said I wouldn't trust him. After he had made those allegations, gone on air to repeat it, for me, I think it would be suicidal to get into any one-on-one meeting with him. It's very dangerous.
You don't want to die as well.
Mr. Osei-Owusu emphatically denied ever offering a bribe on behalf of the Energy Minister.
Even though you've answered a lot, I just want to ask you directly. Did you take any money from the Energy Minister, Mr. Boakye Jaku?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Did you give any money to the minority chief whip, Alhaji Mubarak Mohammed Muntaka, to distribute to his members on the minority side?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Or to any members because of any members of the appointments committee, even the majority, because it terms of reference, or to any members of the appointments committee?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable Banda.
Honorable Joseph Usu, were there any attempts by anybody, whether directly or indirectly, to bribe the appointment committee?
Mr. Chairman, the appointments committee as a group, from the time we sit to the time we finish, no stranger has participated in our meetings. No non-member had met with us as a group. And then I, as an individual, nobody has attempted to bribe me. If anybody has done that to the members, I will not be in a position to say, but as a group, through me or in the meeting, or as a person, nobody has attempted to bribe me or the group.
Chairman of the 5-member committee, Joe Gatti, announced 3 more witnesses will appear before them on Friday to give further evidence.
3 witnesses. As I said before, Honorable Mutaka, Honorable Ayaga, and Honorable Boachi Ajako. We shall start at 11 o'clock. Like I said before, to any member of the committee who wants to appear before the committee or who has information which will assist the committee should submit a memorandum to the committee by Friday. And the committee will decide whether or not to call the member. But as I speak, we have agreed to call 3 more persons.
Hello, good evening, and time to be with you for business. The inflation rate for the month of January has dropped to 13.3%, the lowest in 3 years. The Statistical Service says a 2.1 percentage points reduction from 15.4% recorded in December last year is as a result of a drop in both food and non-food inflation. Acting Government Statistician Dr. Ban Wadie gives a breakdown of the inflation rates.
The fall in the inflation rate from the December rate of 15.4% to the January 2017 rate of 13.3% is largely due to the fall in the rates of inflation for housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels group, which dropped to 4.4% in January 2017 from a figure of 20.2% in December 2016. We also had a fall in the rate of inflation for transport from a figure of 27.2% to a figure of 24.6%. And then food and non-alcoholic beverages also dropped to 7.0% from a figure of 9.7%. And these are largely responsible for the decline in the inflation rate that we recorded.
You're still watching Joy News Prime, and we're now crossing over to the Flagstaff House, where President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo is meeting with ambassadors and high commissioners in Ghana.
The Dean and members of the Diplomatic Corps, the religious and political leaders of our country, the President of the National House of Chiefs, Utumfo's representative, and Nananum, fellow Ghanaians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to have all of you present at this evening's event and happy to see you. Some faces are familiar, as I had the privilege of meeting them during my time as leader of Ghana's opposition, and a few others also from the now distant days of my period as foreign minister. Others I am seeing for the very first time. Nonetheless, I'm happy to see you here at the seat of the presidency. And I know that over the course of my tenure of office, we will have the opportunity to meet regularly and interact often. I am particularly touched that I have become Ghana's president in the 60th year of our independence, a symbolic year. And I hope that the remembrance of the sacrifices and efforts of our founding fathers, those who gave their lives to achieve our independence, will guide and motivate me in the discharge of this high office. And I pray for God's support. At the onset, let me thank Ambassador Mrs. Pevlin Tendai Musaka of the Republic of Zimbabwe for her leadership these past years as the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps. Your Excellency, everyone I have spoken to pays glowing tribute to you. And I can only encourage you to keep it up. And thank you for the words of congratulation and words of friendship. As you are all aware, I'm in the process of forming my government. I've been in office barely 5 weeks, and so far, so good. Parliament has approved all 36 of my ministerial nominees who have been sworn into office. The 10 regional ministers are currently being vetted, and shortly I will announce my nominees for the positions of deputy ministers. The various metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives will soon be announced, and already a number of heads of state institutions and agencies have been appointed, albeit in acting capacities, pending the constitution of the Council of State. Yesterday, I announced the names of 11 eminent Ghanaians whom I have appointed to the Council of State, and I have sent to Parliament for its approval the names of 2 distinguished former leaders of our security services for appointment to the Council as required by our Constitution. The election of regional representatives to the Council, which will complete its composition, will take place tomorrow. I expect that by the middle of next month, God willing, the full complement of the Akufo-Addo administration will be in place, so we can mobilize all our forces to deliver on the mandate entrusted so emphatically on our shoulders by the Ghanaian people on 7th December 2016. Ghana today is facing a promising future. We have enjoyed the longest period of stability since independence. We are arguably the most stable, flourishing democracy in our region and continent, who showed on the 7th of December last dignity and serenity in the exercise of our sovereign franchise. We have a large pool of educated Ghanaians, both in Ghana and in the Ghanaian diaspora, and a hard-working population from which we can draw to drive our economic development. We have seen sustained economic growth over the last two decades. Despite the decline of the last few years, we continue to be one of the leading producers of gold and cocoa in the world. And on top of all of that, we are now an oil-producing economy. Sadly, however, the structure of our economy has not changed substantially since the era of Governor Gordon Gudgesberg, an exporter of raw materials with little or no value addition activities. This is why I've called our economy the Gudgesberg economy. My government's commitment, which I've attempted to articulate over the years, will be to inspire the transformation of the structure of the Ghanaian economy. My government's economic vision will focus on executing an integrated industrialization program with a clear bias towards supporting our small and medium-scale enterprises with access to science and technology, incentives, and markets to make them more productive and competitive. We plan on introducing programs that will boost the productivity of our agricultural sector and introduce incentives that will encourage our banks to provide affordable credit and other financial services to our small and medium-scale enterprises and launch a new wave of viable industries across Ghana. This is summed up in our slogans of one district, one factory, and one village, one dam. Our oil and gas deposits in the Jubilee, Ten, and Sankofa fields offer us the perfect opportunity to create petrochemical industries, including monetizing our gas to create a multi-billion-dollar gas feedstock industry. We have the opportunity to link together our numerous natural resources like food produce, bauxite, iron ore, oil and gas with our talents, energy, and sense of enterprise to turn our nation into an economic powerhouse in Africa, generating employment and income for our youth. My government is not going to shy away from taking the critical decisions that are necessary for the long-term interest of our people. We are going to invest heavily in building up the most important ingredient of development, the intellectual property of the people, the mind, education, 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 our sure key to success. We want to add value to our human capital, add value to our governance, add value to our public services, and add value to our infrastructure, and add value to our economy. We will govern honestly. We are determined to get Ghana once again, to have Ghana lead once again our continent on two fronts, in entrenching democracy and the rule of law, and in transforming the structure of the African economy to a modern manufacturing kind that has the capacity to generate jobs for our people and create and spread wealth across the length and breadth of our vast continent. It was not for nothing that Ghana was the first black African country to break free from colonial rule. We are determined to show that we can emulate the successes of the Asian nations and thereby create a modern, prosperous nation. We believe that a world dominated by a handful of rich nations, with the majority of nations in the South languishing in poverty and misery, is not a prescription for global security. Our generation is not seeking handouts from anybody. Neither are we going to be pawns or victims. And to paraphrase Edmund Burke, the famous British statesman, it is in the interest of global equilibrium that wealth should be found everywhere. Our common humanity requires that we form partnerships with the developed world that will lead to the transformation of the lives of the Ghanaian and African peoples, a transformation that will bring the mass of our people out of poverty into a marked enhancement of the quality of their lives. To this end, perhaps now more than ever, I wish to assure you that all the alliances and friendships that we have entered into over the last 60 years are going to be developed and maintained during my time as President of the Republic. We are determined to leverage these alliances and friendships to grow our economy and nation. Ghana's engagement with other foreign African countries will be the prime focus of its foreign policy. Ghana will be very active in its membership of ECOWAS and the AU. It is in this spirit that we deployed some 208 troops as part of ECOWAS's mission to the Gambia. This mission created an enabling environment for the effective enforcement of the rule of law in the Gambia, and thus made it possible for a peaceful resolution of the electoral impasse. The decisive election of our compatriot, Thomas Kwesi Kwartey, a professional diplomat who acted as secretary to my predecessor, President John Dramani Mahama, as deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission, in the election of Kathleen Kwartey Ayensu and Daniel Batidan on two legal organs of the AU at the just-ended 28th summit of the AU in Addis Ababa, point to Ghana's determination to retake her pride of place amongst the Committee of Nations on the continent. We support fully the important decisions taken at this year's AU summit. Morocco has been admitted into the Union with all its implications. Proposals for institutional reforms of the AU were considered and accepted. The summit agreed on new sustainable ways of financing the AU so the body can be self-sufficient and preserve its self-respect by weaning itself of dependence on the charity of others. The Assembly of Heads of State also signed up to the Continental Free Trade Agreement, whose purpose is to ensure significant growth of intra-African trade, as well as to assist countries on the continent to use trade more effectively for growth and sustainable development. The growth of democracy in our country and continent is threatened by the spread of terrorism. Ghana stands firmly with all civilized nations in repudiating terrorism as an instrument of political action. It commits itself to doing everything within its means to support regional, continental, and global efforts to defeat this 21st century scourge. Ghana is equally committed to the reforms of the global political order. The inability of the United Nations to undertake the reforms of its institutions that will reflect the realities of our times and not the realities of the post-war world represents a manifest injustice against the peoples of Africa. We on this continent are an integral part of the global order, and global institutions should reflect this fact. For a handful of states who emerged as the dominant powers in the world after the Second World War of the 20th century to continue in the 21st century to be the sole arbiters of international security remains to us a structural deficit which the world community should no longer tolerate. I had the privilege, as Foreign Minister, of chairing the Colloquium of Foreign Ministers that fashioned the Ezulwini Consensus, Africa's common position on UN reforms. I continue to subscribe to the goals of that consensus, and we use this occasion to call for the reform of the Security Council urgently to reflect the realities of our times. Our commitment to the values of democracy, respect for human rights, and the rule of law will continue to shape our foreign policy. I would therefore like to renew my commitment to Ghana's continued collaboration with your respective countries and international organizations in this symbolic year and in the many years ahead, in order to advance further our common pursuit of greater cooperation and to deepen and strengthen our ties of friendship. There is a new wind of optimism and revival blowing today across our country, which we are determined to harness to bring about the progress, prosperity, and happiness of the Ghanaian people. The Black Star will shine again. I wish you and your families well, and above all, success in your duties as accredited representatives of your countries and international organizations to the Republic of Ghana. Happy New Year, Afrisiapa, and may God bless us all.
And that was a live feed from the Flagstaff House here in Accra, where the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has been addressing members of the diplomatic corps. Now,
one of those who will be seeking to be elected to represent the Central Region on the Council of State when the elections take place on Thursday is former GFA Administrator Nana Sambru Butler. He is urging delegates to consider persons that have overwhelming experience in diverse fields to represent the Central Region. 6 persons, including 3 chiefs, are vying for the slot. But the 64-year-old management scientist, Nana Sambru Butler, says his experiences in both private and public life makes him stand out for the position. In an interview with Joy News' Richard Kwejonyaku, Nana Butler promises to use all his emoluments to set up a fund to help the rural poor in the Central Region if elected.
I had some promptings from people who thought, as a true son of Central Region, who, on a very quiet way, will contribute to my quota towards the development of Central Region. Perhaps I could even do better if given in a certain status. I have really stayed away from being actively in politics, taking a political position. But considering that the Council of State is apolitical, I decided to go in there for it. Fanti will say, if I had the opportunity, and when those in the delegates vote for me, I will, with all the emoluments that will be due me, set up a fund to cater for the deprived in society. As of today, I've gone to every candidate. Personally, had interaction with about 34. The others that I've not met, I've spoken on the phone, and very good friends of mine, voluntarily, I've also gone to talk to them. But everybody knows that I have very, very good friends across the political divide.
Meanwhile, 11 people, including a former ambassador to China, Fari Apiedu Donko, will be battling for the Council of State slot from the Eastern Region, where 52 delegates from 26 MMDAs will select one of the 11 candidates contesting. The former ambassador believes the position of a member of the Council of State is a responsible portfolio, which requires more mature persons who can keep confidential information. He adds that his good ties with President Akufo-Addo puts him ahead of the pack. Elsewhere, 3 persons instead of the original 5 will now contest for the Council of State elections in the Upper West region. This was after 2 of the candidates pulled out of the race on Thursday evening. The remaining contestants include 2 chiefs and a 34-year-old accountant who wants to change the status quo. Rafiq Salam report from Wa.
It was earlier described as the Battle of Chiefs in the Upper West region because the president of the Upper West Regional House of Chiefs, Tumukworo Richard Babine Kantong, was to pitch his strength against his vice, Paramount Chief of the Dofiama traditional area, Nadu Kumunu Domele. However, the showdown many expected ended on a dull fad. Nadu Kumunu Domele said he doesn't see it healthy contesting against his president from the Regional House of Chiefs and therefore was bound out from the race.
Right from the onset, both of us picked forms without the knowledge of each other. It was after we submitted the forms that we were aware that each had filed. So I started thinking whether it was proper that I should contest the elections with my own president. If I did, the repercussions would be very serious for the Upper West region, in the sense that elections bring bitterness. The loser must be bitter against the winner. So I felt that it were better we maintain our relations so that we can carry out our mandate for the 4 years.
Another chief who would have been a threat to the electoral fortunes of the Tumokoro is acting president of the Zinibua traditional area, Kuribareche Barinyan Lowie. He also stepped down, saying he cannot see himself contesting against his own. 59-year-old Koro Richard Babini Kantong, who is a tax collector with the Customs Excise and Preventive Service, is now seen to be the front runner in the race due to his perceived personal relationship with President Nana Akufo-Addo and by extension the government.
My age and my experience, and I believe I am more than qualified to advise to part of members who will be advising the president on policies and issues, and more particularly there are a lot of issues affecting this part of our country, Upper West region, the youngest region in this country. I think if I'm part of the council, I believe I can bring a lot of development to this part of our country.
Bankona Na Jama Matara comes into the race with his knowledge on marketing and communication. His major aim of going for the position is to ameliorate the suffering of the people through education.
Obviously, I mean, we've done a lot of spade work. We've been around the 11 districts, I can tell you. We've spoken to 21 after the 22 delegates. Of course, we're not in it to lose, we're in it to win. But like I told the delegates, win or lose, the crusade to tackle the educational problem still remains. I told them, okay, whether they vote for me or not, I think that I have engaged with these 22 delegates, and I believe it's a major resource that together we can tap, I can plug into in order to make things happen on the educational front. More specifically, that's my crusade, win or lose, win or lose.
34-year-old accountant Abubakar Sadiq Muasin adds up to the list with the hope that the 22 delegates will give him the nod to change his status quo.
We realize that there are a lot of opportunities if you're a council or state member, but because our chiefs are so big enough that they can't approach or they can't lobby for the districts or the region as a whole. So because of that, it is preventing the region from getting other leaders from the states. So these are some of the things that has informed my decision to contest as a council of state member in the Upper West region.
Meanwhile, the Upper West Regional Directorate of the Electoral Commission is already prepared for Thursday's election. Ali Osman Adamu is the Deputy Regional Director.
We have received all the notices of poll and we have pasted it across the districts in the region. Every district has got a copy of copies of the notice of poll. It has been pasted. The notice of poll shows the pictures and then the background information about all the contestants. The election is starting at 10 o'clock and is supposed to end at 2 o'clock.
Reporting for Joy News, Rafik Salam. Wow.
Now, Parliament Wednesday continued its vetting of ministers designate for the various regions, with 3 nominees, Volta, Upper West and Upper East, appearing. Dr. Archibald Lecha, who has been nominated for the Volta region, has been talking tough on how he plans to leave a legacy of improved infrastructure if he is approved. He also talked about plans to complete ongoing projects, including the aerodrome started by the Eswal Mahama administration, as well as setting up of new factories in that part of the country.
Evidence I shall give before this committee touching the matter in this issue shall be the truth. Shall be the truth. The whole truth. And nothing but the truth. So help me God.
In all, 3 regional ministers designate appeared before the Appointments Committee Wednesday. First to appear was the Minister designate for the Volta region, Dr. Archibald Lecha. Also before the committee was the Upper West Regional Minister designate, Al-Hassan Suleimana. He didn't mince words on how to tackle the major challenge confronting the people of that region, poverty. For the minister-designate, addressing the poverty situation will largely help minimize the trend of north-south migration.
According to the Ghana Living Standard Survey, which was conducted in 2012-2013 by the Ghana Statistical Board, Upper West came in the West, or the most deprived in the country, and with one of our districts, one West district, being the poorest. So therefore, I would want to see how we can improve upon this situation by looking at the tourism potentials of the region, especially the poorest districts, has a very tourism potential which I think has been underutilized. Therefore, I would want to see to improve upon that so that the living standards of the people of the region and that district in particular will be enhanced.
The minister-designate for the Upper East region, Roxin Bukari, also had his turn.
Now come down to Accra to see my minister in charge of roads and then plead with him that Upper East region we are suffering. The roads are too bad, so come and visit us. I'll give you Guinea fowl meat to eat and then solve our roads for us. So that's what we are going to do.
And he had one thing on his mind: job creation.
The burger meat factory, we're trying to work out things so that it will be an abattoir. And I've already started working on that one. And very soon, the interested parties will be in Boga to inspect the place and make it an abattoir, so that at least it will serve the people of Upper East region, especially the districts around, and even come up to Walwale, where we can make it possible for the livestock breeding to come up again. The Ulugu livestock will also come back to Benin. So a lot of jobs will be created for the youth in the Upper East region. About the tomato factory, that's the area that I have to meet the technical men, the technicals, to know how we can map out things and see how it will be put to use. And maybe we invite partners to come and help us in that aspect.
The authorities at the Konfanoshi Teaching Hospital have justified the decision to charge upfront fees for some services at the Accident and Emergency Center. Members of the Konfanoshi Doctors Association, however, say this suggests a return to the cash and carry system. Ohemi Interior has more in this report.
Authorities insist the measure is the only way to ensure the hospital continues to provide tertiary services to the public. Management has been meeting with the leadership of the Konfanoshi Doctors Association, which has been critical of some management decisions.
You spend so much on the patient, and at the end of the day, he will declare that he hasn't gotten the money to pay. Meanwhile, if these services are not available at the hospital and you give them prescriptions to go outside and buy, they get money to buy. So upon realizing that we're losing too much, we decided that when certain services are non-insured, the patients should pay for those services. Just as when we run out of those things or we do not have those facilities and they go outside, they get money to pay. And that when they are accessing private facilities, they do not complain of lack of money. So it was just a strategy for us to recoup the cost. That's why I indicated that the doctors agree completely with management that when it comes to full cost recovery for a service that we provide to the public, they are in total agreement, because that is the only way to sustain our operations.
Management has denied accusations it is doing little to improve oxygen supply at the facility after beginning tender process for installation of a new oxygen plant. The hospital's oxygen plant is able to produce only 300 of 800 cubic meters of oxygen needed daily. Only 2 of the 3 obsolete plants are producing under capacity, forcing authorities to outsource about 200 cubic meters from private sources.
Sometimes we have a shortfall. We have only 1 plant working on stream. Sometimes we have just 2 on stream. Currently, as we speak, out of the 3, we have only 2 that are working on stream. And it was just yesterday that we restored 1. So previously, for the past months, we've had only 1 plant that has been on stream. So that's been a situation of oxygen. Under normal circumstances, the lifespan of a good oxygen plant should at least should take you for more than not less than 15 years. But unfortunately, because this one is outmoded, we are having difficulty getting spare parts to get them repaired. And that has been our issue. So as they run, we don't get spare parts. So sometimes we even have to improvise to get the plant working.
Meanwhile, management is happy at the outcome of a 3-hour meeting it had with the leadership of Kompanoche Doctors Association. The meeting was to engage the doctors on happenings at the hospital.
It has been agreed that the decision of management to give a 24-hour window period for patients who are supplied non-insured drugs to pay back should be fine-tuned for effective implementation. Again, the decision by management that transfusion services should be paid for within 48 hours should also be fine-tuned for effective delivery of emergency care.
Up next, we bring you entertainment.